You were not in the same place when this started. And I don't mean that as encouragement, it's more as an observation. You have been at this for a while. You started with something and you had energy. Maybe you had a forward movement that felt sustainable and you kept going. Maybe you haven't stopped. You have shown up and you have done the work and you've held things together, but something has changed in what it costs you to do all of those things. The people that are watching you, they can't tell because you're still producing and you're still showing up. You're probably still handling everything. So from where they stand, everything looks fine. The only place that you can tell is from the inside, and the inside is tired. That's where we're going to be going today here in Exodus 18. It's actually the chapter where God sends someone to look at Moses, and he does it from the outside and says the thing that Moses can't even say to himself. So stay with me today. Good morning as you all are coming in. Good morning, Aunt Joyce, Jessica. If you guys are coming in, drop a good morning or a hello. We are going to be in Exodus 18 today, and I would love for you guys to stay with me here. So as you're coming in, I welcome you. Before we do anything else, I want you to start our day as we always do by dropping something in the comments for me. The area of my life where I am most tired right now is, what does that look like for you? That real answer, the one that you've been holding on to that you haven't put into words yet maybe, today is that day. The place where you can just say it. Good morning as you guys come in. Just one word. Of course, as we always do, we're going to come back to this word at the end. The area of my life where I am most tired right now is what? Mentally, physically, in my business, in my marriage, in my finances. What does that look like for you? Good morning as you all come in. I think for me, if I were being very vulnerable with you guys, it's mentally. Mentally, I'm just tired. So I want to talk to you about what Exodus 18 is going to be about. So Moses has been leading an entire nation alone, and he led them out of Egypt. He held up the staff over the sea, over the Red Sea, right? And he prayed for water when they couldn't find any. And he stood on a hill with his arms up during the battle of Amalek. And he has been that person for everything, and he has kept going. But by the time Jethro, his father-in-law, arrives here in chapter 18, Moses is actually sitting from morning until evening, settling disputes for the people. The people stand in line all day long, and Moses answers question after question after question, and case after case. And he cannot tell that something is wrong because of all the work that God has called him to. He is faithful and he's available and he's doing the right thing. And then one person who is on the outside of all of the situation, he watches for one day and he says, what you're doing is not good. This is not good. You're going to wear yourself out. And so are the people. That is today's chapter. And I'm really excited to get into it because thank you for that. I think it's very relevant to us in leadership. Okay. So before we get into anything else, I want you to drop something in the comments for me. The area of my life where I am most tired right now is what? I want that real answer, the one that you've been holding on to, that maybe you haven't said to anybody else but God. Maybe you just say it quietly in your head today. I'm going to come back to that again at the end of the live. So the area of my life where I am most tired right now is what? In my business, in parenting, in my marriage, in my finances, in my ministry, in my 9 to 5, whatever that looks like. Okay. And if you are new here, welcome. Can you guys put that in the comments? I say this every day and I just want to welcome you in. I want to welcome you in. I have a gift for you at the bottom left hand of your screen. And today we have our prayer call. So right after we finish the study today, we're going to hop off, go to a different platform, and I'm going to pray over you and cover you for the week. It's just for the ladies. But we gather together every single Tuesday for prayer, and I cover you in prayer over the things. I bring the things that I see in the coaching that I do, in the community here, in my life, in my one-on-one conversations, what I see on social media, whatever that is, and I create a theme for it. Okay? And I just pray over you in a way that I feel like we don't get the covering anywhere else. So if you look in that same area at the bottom left of your screen where you get your free gift, you guys can sign up for the link for the prayer calls. Okay? It's directly at 10:30 today. So if you are new here, I welcome you. Good morning. If you show up day after day, good morning. Good morning to each and every one of you. I'm going to teach through the text verse by verse. We're going to slow down where we need to slow down. We're going to pull in the Hebrew words, the cultural context, what people in this study actually experienced, and then how all of it actually connects to us. We look at it psychologically. We look at it as a business owner, as parents, as spouses. I try to relate it as much as I can to our lives so we can understand the character of the Lord, so we can understand Jesus Christ and why this book so specifically leads to him. Sometimes I take water breaks. I ask you questions. I invite you to participate and ask your questions, to share your discernment, to share, wow, this really hit me. Ask questions of others, to pray over one another. We're going to pray here actually to start off our study. So I want to know, what is the thing that you are most tired for? What is the thing that you are praying to God to see today? What does that look like? We're going to open up in prayer, so continue to flood the comments with it. We want to pray over you as a community, not just me. Where two or more are gathered, he is there, right? Let's invite the Holy Spirit in. Lord, I thank you for today. Thank you for a beautiful Tuesday where we can gather to hear your word. I pray that you give me the wisdom and discernment, not only to represent your word accurately, but to read the room, to understand what we are feeling, so that your word can be a comfort to us. I know that you see every comment, Father, as it comes into this live or on the replay. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for being our banner, the Jehovah Nisi, Yahweh Nisi. Thank you for going ahead of us. Even though we feel the struggle right now, we know that you have a plan in place for us, that you see things that we don't. Father, I pray that you highlight the areas of our lives where we are carrying too much, where we are holding more than what you want us to. Please give us the eyes to see the assignment, but to also see in the ways that we are to lead and where we are to surrender to you. Thank you for the callings that you placed on our lives, the families, the people that you've put into our situation to help us along. Please allow us to surrender that feeling that we always need to do it on our own. Please allow our ears and our eyes to be open to when people can see when we are holding on to too much. Please let us receive. Let us receive that help. Thank you for all you do in our lives, Father. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right. I thank you so much for you guys being on here today. Okay, so if you are new here, I welcome you. We are in Exodus 18 today. I am going to give you a recap of Exodus 17, and if any of you missed any of the previous studies, the replays are available for you guys. All you have to do is go to that gold icon at the bottom. And if you're new, can you put that in here? If you plan on hearing what we have to say. Because I have a gift for you. It's all in that little section where the gold icon is. The replays, the gift, the link to our prayer call for you ladies. Okay, so we were in Exodus 17 yesterday. It had two things that were happening. Welcome, Daisy. Okay, the first half of this chapter, it was a water crisis at Rephidim. And Israel actually arrived and there was no water. So they went straight to Moses, as they did each and every time, right? Every time the Israelites have an issue, they go straight to Moses instead of taking it to God. There's a lot to learn in that. What did Moses do? He went straight to God. He went straight to God, and God told him to strike the rock at Horeb with his staff, and then water came out. So every single time they had a complaint, they had an issue, even though they didn't bring it to God, God still solved that need for them. He already had a plan in place for them before they even understood what was going on. Okay. God told him to strike the rock at Horeb with his staff. And then the water came out, and Moses named that place Massah and Meribah. That meant testing and quarreling. There was a lot of depth in that. So you guys should go back to the replay so you can fully understand what that meant. But it was because of how the people had tested God in their exhaustion and their need. And God didn't condemn them for it. He met them there. So the second half of this chapter was the battle with Abimelech. And if you are somebody who tends to be that like fixer for everybody, the one who's always strong and holding it together, yesterday was especially for you, and today is as well. But definitely go back in and watch that, because there's so much beauty in the fact that God sends the people that are already in your circle to help comfort you, to help hold on to you, to be the strength that you don't have sometimes. Okay? And how we all play a part. That to me was so beautiful. And if you guys are somebody that was on that live yesterday, and you're someone that's like, I am the fixer, I am the one that people go to for everything, was there any part of it that opened up your eyes? Or like you felt like a release or something? Did yesterday kind of highlight something for you? It did for me. It did for me, because a lot of times I tend to feel like I have to hold on to everything. And it's one where the people that he gave to me, they're already in my circle. Sometimes I just have to allow them the opportunity to help. And so Joshua was there, and he led the fight in the valley. And by all scripture, he had no previous military experience. So Moses stood on the hill with his staff raised and his arms were up, and Israel advanced. And so when his arms dropped, Abimelech actually gained ground. Why did I say Abimelech? It's Amalek. Moses' arms grew heavy in that moment. And Aaron and Hur, so Aaron is his brother, and Hur, by scripture, the definition, what scholars have found, is his nephew. Okay, they came alongside him and they held up his hands until Israel actually won the fight. God told Moses to write all of this down so that generations could know about this story. And Moses built an altar and he called it Yahweh Nisi. That a lot of times we hear that as Jehovah Nisi, whichever one, right? That each of those things means the Lord is my banner. So essentially where we landed yesterday in the through line of Exodus 17 was that Moses needed help and God made sure it was there. There were two separate situations and two forms of support. It was that same truth running underneath both of them. We're carrying that thread directly into Exodus into 18 today. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a recap to bring you guys up to speed, because what started as a story about a battle support is about to become something very personal. Okay, so we're going to start here in Exodus 18, and I just want you to come into the mindset of God being the one that always sees a need before you even know you have it. And sometimes it's the people around you that have to point it out to you. Okay, so we're in Exodus 18, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 4, and we're going to slow down from there. So as you guys are coming in, good morning. Okay, good morning. You guys can say good morning. I want to welcome you in. Our community wants to welcome you in, and I invite you guys to follow along. Okay, and it says, and Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back with her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer. For he said, the God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses in the wilderness. Oops, I read more. Where he was encamped at the mountain of God. Okay, I actually read to verse 5, but that's fine. So before Jethro even does anything, in the text, it actually tells us what he heard. So he heard everything. And so that means that he heard about Egypt, he heard about the plagues, the Red Sea, the water from the rock, the manna, the quail, and the battle with Amalek. So he knows about all of these things, and he heard what God had done, and it changed something in him before he took a single step towards this camp. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward because in verse 12, it's going to show us that when Jethro arrives and Moses tells him the whole story in person, Jethro is going to say, "Now I know that the Lord is greater than all of the gods." Okay, so this is actually a conversation in the middle of Exodus. There is a Midianite priest that is outside the covenant community, and he's going to encounter the testimony of what God did for Israel and worships the God of Israel. And in that chapter, it contains the most practical human wisdom about leadership and sustainability, but it's also going to be a chapter where a Gentile comes to faith. Okay, so I wanted to explain that right away. One other thing before we move on, I want you to look at the name of Moses' sons. Okay, the first one is Gershom. That means I have been a stranger in a foreign land. That is actually the name that Moses gives his first son when he's in Midian. And that's before God called him. That's before like the burning bush and when he's still trying to figure out who he is after leaving Egypt. If you guys have been with me since we were in Genesis, especially with the time of Noah, you know that it's really typical for people in the culture to name their children the experience of what's happening around them, like their circumstances. So a lot of the names that you see in scripture, especially like in the Old Testament, they're based on what people were experiencing in the culture at that time, like in their lives. So that's what Moses was. Like that's what he was feeling. He felt like he was a stranger in this land because he had fled from Egypt, right? After he unalived another Egyptian, and he fled to this place that he stayed for over 40 years. So when he had his son, that's what he had been experiencing. He felt like a stranger in a foreign place. That's the name Moses gives his son. And then he has his other son, his other son, Eliezer. Okay, Eliezer actually means the God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Okay, so that's what the name means. That's a very long meaning. That name actually came later, after the call. That was after Moses had seen God act. So the sons' names are actually a timeline. Gershom, he is who Moses was before he knew what God could do. Eliezer, he is who Moses was after that. So every single time Moses said his son's name, he's saying, God helped me. God delivered me. And I love that that's not incidental. Moses actually needed that reminder. He needed it the first morning that he stood in front of Pharaoh, and he needed it in the wilderness. He needed it every single moment where the weight of what he was carrying could have made him forget. It reminds me of Hagar when she named the Lord. And she said, El Roi. And then her son Ishmael means that God hears. And then with, Isaac, meaning laughter. Like the names have such significant meaning. When I named my boys, I just liked their names. They didn't necessarily have such a significant meaning. For those of you that have your own names, do you guys know the origin of your names? Or do you name your children intentionally based on your current circumstances? I definitely didn't. But I love how the names have such significance in Scripture. Some of you name things that you want to remember, right? My name actually means butterfly. I don't think that's why my mom named me it. I think she just liked my name. My grandma wanted to name me Jessica, I guess. But my mom said she loved Vanessa. And it means butterfly. There's actually, I think, a monarch butterfly. And so that's what I'm named after. I don't think it's because of the butterfly. She just liked it. But I think that sometimes we name things, whether it's our kids or just things that we want to remember. Maybe it's a verse that we have saved in our phone or a note that we wrote to ourselves in a really hard season, right? The name that God used, the name of someone God used. You're doing what Moses did. When you do that, when you name something to bear a significance, to remember who God was, that's you building a memorial into the ordinary pieces of your day. So if you guys are just coming in, we've read verses 1-5. Can you guys drop a good morning in? We're in Exodus 18 and we're going verse by verse, and it's going to go somewhere very personal today. Okay, so in verse 5-9, it says, and Jethro, I know I already read this, but I'm going to read it again. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wives to Moses in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. Now he said to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their well-being. And they went into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Then Jethro rejoiced for all the good which the Lord had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. Okay? So Moses goes out to meet Jethro, and he bows down and he kisses him, and they ask each other about their well-being. I love that there's warmth there before anything else happens. I would say for the most part, I'm close to my mother-in-law. And I've confided in her. But most of the time I see her, I'm like, hi, how are you? I don't go deep. But you also have to think that it's potentially been a while since he's seen him, of course. And so if it's been a while since I've seen my in-laws, I'm usually pretty like trying to catch up on what happens. But I love that in this scenario, there's warmth before anything else happens. And then Moses tells Jethro everything. This isn't a summary. He's not giving him the highlights. He's telling him everything, all that the Lord has done, all the hardship that he's faced, and all the deliverance. They're both things. I find it interesting. Like, do you all have that one person that, like, when you see them, you can just, like, let your guard down? Like, you've been strong for a while and you see this person and you're just like, we have a lot of catching up to do. I have to tell you everything. I have two people in my life that are like that. One is my mom and one is my Aunt Tina. And when I see them, it's like, whew, I got to tell you it all. And I don't hold it back. I tell you everything. Who is that for you guys? I feel like that's who Jethro is for Moses. He tells him all the hardship, all the deliverance. And Moses tells him all the hard parts alongside the good parts, because Jethro is somebody that he can actually tell. Like, there's people that we have in our lives where you see them and you're like, yeah, things are good, right? You just give them that surface level explanation. And there's other people that you're like, I've been dying to tell you all of these things. Okay. And you know what, guys? For some of you that say that you don't have that person, I will be that for you. I can be that person for you. I mean, I'm going to say this too, like I can't do like lengthy phone conversations. But I feel like this community is for that too. I want you guys to have somebody that you feel like you can let your guard down. Because that's important. Okay? I feel like that really matters. So Moses spent the entire chapter and he had been answering questions. He'd been settling disputes. He was making decisions for people all day, every day. He is the person that everybody goes to. Okay? There is one relationship where Moses is not the person that has all the answers. I think we all need that. How many of you are that person where you consistently have all the things? You're holding all the things all the time. And to feel that like release to say, I don't have to be that person anymore. I think that's why God created the body, the community, because we're never meant to hold all of those things on our own. He's just telling somebody what just happened and somebody's listening. How many of you can be that for somebody else? I don't typically do that. I don't typically say like, hey, my foot is falling asleep, guys, sorry. I don't typically say that, but I feel like that's what we have been here together long enough. If you need that person, say, I need that person. I need somebody to just listen. I want somebody to just hear me. And if you can be that person for somebody, for someone else, can you put that in the comments? I can be that person. I can be that person. I want you guys to know that there is a body of people that are willing to support other people. I will say this too, guys. I'm going to say this, and I mean this with all the love, but don't be like extra, okay? Don't be like overwhelming. If you guys are that person where you can have somebody reach out to you, understand that they can't always be that person all the time, in the sense that like they may not be able to have lengthy conversations. They may not always be able to pray over you. They will when they have the capacity to that, to do all of those things. Because sometimes that can be hard, okay? I just want you guys to know that like we will be here for you, but please don't feel like we're leaving you if maybe we don't get to you right away, okay? Mom, you're so funny. You are not overwhelming, Mom, I promise. Okay, so I just had to say that. Okay? I love that Moses has that person that he can just come to and say, I'm going to tell you what happened. And somebody's actually listening. Okay? I say that because, well, I feel like God is actually saying that there are people here who need that, even if it is a stranger, like you said, Eric. Who in your life gets that full account, not the version of you that you clean up before you send it, or a summary, a full account, right? We said that. Those are our people, right? Moses has one, and that person is about to change the rest of his story. I think it's important that we have that person, because sometimes that person can see things and just be honest with us and say, hey, this isn't good for you. So I'm going to read through verses 10 through 12. Okay, verses 10 through 12. And Jethro said, blessed be the Lord who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, for in the very thing in which they behaved proudly, he was above them. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to offer to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second. So Jethro has heard that full account, and his first response is actually worship. I don't mean to laugh, but I just think about this. Like, I imagine when a family member or somebody comes to me and they tell me the full account, I'm going to say that usually my first posture isn't worship. And I wish that it was. Obviously, I tailor it to depending on the person that I'm talking to. There are some people that I think of like, wow, how good is God? Right? There are times where I do that. But if I'm talking to like one of my siblings or like a best friend or something like that, I don't always be like, glory be to God. And I love that he does this. He hears the full account of everything that Moses is carrying. And his first response is to worship. He doesn't immediately go into analysis. I think that's usually what I do. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're going through so much. Like, how can I fix this? Or like, how can I help comfort you? Or what should I say in this moment, right? Like we tend to analyze. At least I do. I don't know if you guys do that, but usually I'm like, oh my goodness. He doesn't start problem solving, which is exactly what I do. I don't know why, but immediately when somebody comes to me with a problem, I want to solve it for them. I want to be like, okay, what do you need? And I've had to train myself to just not, sometimes you just have to listen. Like, some of my family members tell me this, like, Vanessa, I'm not asking you to fix it. So they say that to me, like, in the beginning, like, I don't need you to fix it. I just want you to listen. And I have gotten to the point where I've said, like, I'll listen and I'll say, like, I know you're not asking me for advice, so I'm just going to be here. And then sometimes they'll say, no, but I am. So then that's when I actually give it. But I've had to learn, like, sometimes people aren't always coming to you for you to fix it. And I'm like that. Sometimes I just want somebody to just be there and to listen. I don't always want, like, sometimes I want, honestly, the person that I am, I just want you to tell me if I'm wrong. I have people in my life that are like that, but a lot of times I just want them to say, Vanessa, that was not okay. Like, you're not right about this. Thankfully, I'd say the person that's the most like that is my mom, because she knows, because I tell her, Mom, please give me the honest. Am I being fair to Matt here in this situation? Or like, will you at least tell me if I'm being ridiculous about this? Like, I don't want people to sugarcoat it. It doesn't help me to grow. If you're always like, it reminds me sometimes of like Chat GPT. Like, you're just agreeable all the time. Don't be that to me. Bring me honesty. Bring me that version that I can't see, that I'm like, don't be agreeable with me. That doesn't help me and it doesn't help the other person. And so what Moses is doing is he's giving him everything, and Jethro hears it. He hears exactly what Jethro hears exactly what God did, and he says, now I know. Now I know that the Lord is greater. He's greater than all the other gods, or all gods. So in the very thing in which they behaved proudly, he was above them. I think that phrase is very interesting. The very thing in which they behaved proudly. It's actually a direct reference to Pharaoh's pride. So the thing that Pharaoh used against Israel, God actually used it to display his power through Israel. So the tool of the oppressor, it became the occasion for that deliverance. And Jethro, he worships because he sees what God did in that moment. He offers a sacrifice. Aaron and all the elders of Israel, they come and eat bread with Jethro before God. And in the world that they lived in, so the culture of the time, if you share bread before God, it's actually a binding act. It means I am with you and I recognize what's happening here. I'm actually part of this story. So it's like Jethro isn't an outsider anymore. He's been welcomed into that circle of what God is doing before he gives Moses any word of advice. This is a man of God, and he is moved by the testimony of God, and he is worshiping, and then he's speaking from that place of worship. So when he gives the correction to Moses, when this is going to be coming up, that correction, it doesn't come from somebody who is a detached observer. He is now within this inner circle, and he's been brought up to speed, basically. It's coming from somebody who just declared that God is greater than every other power that Moses faced. Jethro, he already believes in the God that Moses serves before he tells Moses what needs to change. I want to stay here for just a second before we get into this next section. Okay? We have Jethro who is arriving and he's worshiping and he's sitting down to eat with Israel's elders. And we have had Moses telling him every single thing, like the hard parts included. He's not leaving anything out. Now we are having a family reunion in the middle, like They're in the middle of the wilderness. And then tomorrow morning, that whole thing is going to change. That's because Jethro is about to watch Moses work. And in that, what he sees is going to be the most important thing that Moses hears during the entire Exodus journey. It's not a word from God in the fire or even a vision. It's a person who watched and then said what they saw. Okay, so stay with me throughout this because I think this is very important to a lot of us. So in verses 13 through 14 of Exodus 18, it says, "And so it was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he said, 'What is this thing that you're doing for the people? Why do you alone sit and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?' So Jethro is here and he's watching for just a day, just one day. And he sits down and he's watching Moses sit from morning until evening. This is while people are lining up their disputes. This is with their questions, their problems, and Moses handles every single one of them. Then Jethro, he asks 2 questions. He says, 'What is this thing that you're doing? And why are you doing it by yourself?' So in Hebrew, the word that Jethro is actually using, like when he says you alone, it means by yourself, right? Like you set apart, you isolated. That is that same word that God used in Genesis when he said, 'It is not good for man to be alone.' That word in Hebrew is levad. When you look in some original text, that's the word that's used. It's levad. That same word is being used here, that it is not good for man to be alone. So Jethro, he's actually watching Moses and seeing the same thing that God named at creation. This was never designed for one person. So Moses, he has been so inside of the work that he doesn't even have a category for this question. He's doing what the work is requires him to do. And he's doing like what's directly in front of him. The ideas that the structure in and of itself might be wrong, it's not something that he's been able to see from where he's at. Like Moses doesn't even recognize, like there's no part of him that sees this as like, oh, maybe this is wrong. I think that's very relatable because we can't always see our own, pace from inside of it. There's not anything wrong with us when that happens. That's just what it looks like when we are deeply committed to something. That commitment, it can make you unavailable to the feedback. The feedback that the commitment itself is costing you more than what it needs to. Like when somebody looks at you and says, are you okay? Why are you working like that? Why are you doing so much? I'm concerned about you. Like, do you need help? Sometimes when we have been like in go mode and handling so many things, somebody can look at us and they can say, how come you're doing that by yourself? And we're like, is there any other way? Like, of course I'm supposed to do this by myself. God called me to it. God gave me this. I'm pretty sure he placed this right in front of me. God talked to me at a burning bush. He told me to lead Israel. Like, why are you, I guess I don't understand the question. Right? Like that would be, what do you mean, why am I doing this by myself? This is what God called me to. Does that sound familiar for some of you? You're leading in your homes, you're leading businesses, and you feel lonely, or it feels isolating and very lonely. And you probably recognize that, but you think that's exactly what the calling is meant to be like, right? You know, I've heard some people, like I've confided in some people before, and I'm like, you know what? I realized I was taking on too much, and I was trying to manage a business and be a mom and be a wife and handle the appointments and do the like grocery shopping and manage like my husband's schedule and my schedule and clients and all of these things, right? And be there for family and friends and all that. And I was like, you know what? There was a point where I stopped and I realized like should I be carrying this by myself? And they looked at me and they said, that's just what moms do. And I was like, but it's not though. To the degree that you're burnt out and you feel like you are losing a piece of yourself, that shouldn't be how it is. There should be support in that. And sometimes somebody can look at you and they can say, you're doing way too much, but we can't hear them. We can't hear them because we just feel like that's what we're called to do, right? We are mothers, right? Like, yes, I am a mom, but that doesn't mean I lose myself in the process, that I shouldn't have support, that I should be taking on every element of everything. I think that we've just become so conditioned to thinking that that's just what we do. That's just the society. That's what we've built on our own, right? But at a certain level, there are things that nobody even asked us to take on that we're taking on, that we deserve to be whole, that we matter, right? But somebody can look at us and say that, and we think, I don't get that. I don't get it. What do you see? I think sometimes too, people see that and we just genuinely don't hear them because we have been strong for so long and we've been doing all of these things for so long that we're like, I'm fine. Genuinely, I'm okay. I appreciate you like thinking of me, but I'm okay. And you actually think that. So when we look into verses 15 through 16, it says, and Moses said to his father-in-law, because the people came to me to inquire of God. And when they have difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one and another, and I have made known the statutes of God and his laws. Moses answers with his calling. He doesn't answer with his capacity. He answers with his purpose. He says, because God called me to this. Because the people come to me to inquire of God. Because this is what God called me to do. Because they need this and I'm the person who can give it. I feel like, you guys, that is me word for word sometimes. I love each and every one of you. But there have been times where I've had to come to people and say, I love you, but I can't be that person for you. I cannot be the one that you call on the phone. I can't be the one that you are texting back and forth constantly. I can't be that person, but I can pray for you. I can pray for you, but I have to set my own boundaries, right? But sometimes it feels like if I don't be that person for some of you, I don't want you to walk away from your faith. I don't want you to tie me so much so and like be that person that people come to that you're like, oh, she's just another person I can't count on, right? Other people have walked away. So I place that complex on myself and say like, I need to be that person for them because it matters so much to me that they know Jesus. I feel like there's sometimes, because I lead this study, sometimes there are hundreds of you that come to me. And I'm like, I really want to get back to each and every one of you. But sometimes I can't. I do. I always do. But sometimes it's in that mentality that I say, like, that's my calling. I need to answer them. I need to pray over them. I need to do these things. So I feel like sometimes every word that Moses says is true. Now, this is just me being vulnerable, you guys. This is not me saying, please don't come to me. That's not what I mean by that. It's just using that as an example. Okay? So every single word that Moses is saying, it's very accurate. That is part of his calling. People are coming to him and inquiring about God. Because that's what God called him to do, but that doesn't mean that he has to lose himself in the process. Even Jesus went away. That's like, this is what I tell myself too. I'm like, Jesus went away and he didn't answer every need. He didn't answer every request. He sought rest and he took time to like renew himself. So why do sometimes we feel like we can't? We feel like we have to be everything for everybody all the time. And we forget that even Jesus didn't meet every single need. He went into isolation sometimes, and that's okay. He went to be with the Lord to say, like he went to be with the Father to say, renew me, refresh me. I need this time. I need to recharge. I cannot be everyone. He could, but he modeled that for us. So every word that Moses is saying, yep, that's true. All of those things are accurate. He does judge between them. He does teach the statutes. That is all accurate, but none of it actually answers the question that Jethro actually asks. Jethro didn't ask Moses, like, why he was doing the work. He asked Moses why he was doing it alone. Isn't that interesting? We often respond in that way. We don't even hear the actual question. We just go straight to our calling because God called me to this. God gave me these things. I need to steward them well. That's not even what he asked. He said, why are you doing it by yourself? Moses actually conflated his calling with his structure. He assumed that because God gave him the assignment required him personally for every single part of it. How many of you are business owners? I'm always curious. I'm always curious because I know there are a lot of you that are on here that don't own businesses, and that's totally fine. That some of you aren't even women, and that's totally fine. I'm not asking this because I'm going to say, get out of here. I'm just genuinely curious because I feel like I'm always so torn. How many of you actually listen and I apply it to business, and none of you are business owners, which is fine. Some of you are like, oh, she's talking about scripture. I just want to hear that. If you are a business owner, or a leader in your 9 to 5, and you know what? Even in your household, okay? Even in your household. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe you are the one that is just in everything all day long. I want you to picture this from the mindset of a leader, okay? Everything that I'm telling you today, I want you to picture this as the mentality of a leader. Okay? So, you guys hang on. My mouse is driving me nuts today and yesterday. I don't know why, but it won't allow me to scroll. It's lagging really bad. And it just clicks on random things, so hopefully it doesn't click me out of here. So, I'm going to reread this sentence, and I want you to use this perspective as a leader, okay? Moses conflated his calling with his structure. So he assumed that because God gave him the assignment required him personally for every single part of it. He didn't distinguish between I am the right person for this and I have to be the only person in all of this. Okay, that conflation, it's very subtle and it's real. How many of you feel like in your business, I can't or wherever, but especially in business, I cannot delegate anything because if I hand it off to somebody, I don't trust that they're actually going to do it right. Or I can't release this part of anything in my home, right? Maybe I cannot trust my husband to do this thing because in the past he has shown me that he is not capable of it. Can I tell you guys the most ridiculous story? The most ridiculous story. My family members are going to hear this and they're going to just know immediately where I'm going with this. Okay. I just laugh because it's so silly. So when my husband and I were younger, we lived in our apartment. Mind you, we had probably been in our apartment for a couple of months at this point. And we had a day where we were cleaning our apartment and I go into the bathroom and my husband is cleaning the shower and I look at him and he's cleaning the shower with the toilet bowl brush. And I go, Matt, what are you doing? Why? I knew my Aunt Tina would know where I was going with this. I was like, what are you doing? Why on earth are you cleaning the shower with the toilet bowl brush? And he goes, I couldn't find anything else. Why does it matter? We've never used it. So I just grabbed it. We've never used it before. This is a brand new one. And I said, Matt, just because you have never cleaned the toilet with this, just because you have never cleaned the toilet with it does not mean that it hasn't been used. Okay. And so he was like, I don't know if he has cleaned a shower to this day. We have been together for over 20 years and I don't think he's ever cleaned the shower. But I am definitely not one to like do that. What is it called? Willful incompetence, where they act like they don't know how to do something. Therefore, they just don't do it, or like they don't do something right. So then I just take over. No, I am definitely not one of those people that's like, hey, you did this wrong the first time. You don't ever get to do it again. I think he just got so like, he got so, I wouldn't say embarrassed. He was just like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not, oh, weaponized incompetence. Yes, that's the one. I think that sometimes we think like, or we have people in our lives where our significant other is just like, we don't hand it off to them because they've proven to us that they can't do it. To me, I'm not in that camp. Like, I don't care. You're still going to do that. So we've all had like our reasoning for why we can't surrender something to somebody at some point, right? Do you guys all have that, like that mentality of like, I can't hire on people because I don't trust that they're going to actually do it. I'm very picky with my branding. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen like any of my branding, but like I am so particular with how I do it that I get really anxious to hire anybody else on because like I have a very specific idea in mind. Like I don't even hire anybody to decorate my house because I'm like, well, not that I could, but I'm nervous to do that because I'm like, I'm so particular with things. And there's just certain things that you feel like if I don't do them, if I don't do it, it's just not going to get done the right way. So we just hold on to those things in business, in our marriages, in our families. But that mentality, it comes in so subtly. And God gives you something and you feel the weight and you feel the seriousness of it. And I think especially in business or with our children, right? Sometimes some of us are so like, I can't even let my children be watched by somebody else. We feel the seriousness of it. And the logic in our minds tell us that if it matters this much, I have to give it everything. I am the only one that can handle this in the right way. And then everything, it quietly becomes, I'm going to do it alone. And then alone just becomes normal. So by the time somebody asks why you're doing it by yourself, that question, it starts to sound really strange because you forgot that it was even a question. Okay? You're just like, I don't know. This is just how I do things now. This is just a part of it. You've taken on so much that that's just your new norm. So when we look at verses 17 through 18, it says, so Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. For this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. Okay. In the Hebrew, it says lo tov. It means not good. So those two words in Hebrew are the exact same words that God used in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Lovto. Okay, it is not good for man to be alone. That phrasing, it is the same. It is the same problem. Something that was never designed for isolation has been reduced to isolation, and the person that's inside of it, they can't see it. Jethro tells Moses 3 things. He says, what you're doing is not good. You're going to wear yourself out, and this is too heavy for one person. Now, when we look at that Hebrew word for wear out, the root word, it actually means like a leaf is wilting. Like a leaf is withering and it's falling from a tree. It's used to things that were once vibrant, and now they're losing their structure. They're losing their form. The only thing that I can picture with that analogy, understanding it in that way, is when we take on too much, think about how much you lose yourself in the process. You are like a leaf that is withering and falling from a tree. When I look out my window, it's so funny because I was telling Matt the other day, I said, I actually really love trees. I think trees are my favorite plant. I don't know if they're technically a plant, and he should know because he does landscaping. He's like, I don't know if it's a plant or not, and I was like, I love trees because when you think about them, look how beautiful and tall and strong they are. And their leaves are so vibrant and they are so like beautiful. Like when you just sit and you listen to a tree and the wind is blowing through the trees and like how the sun peeks in, the little fractals. I learned that from photography. I love trees. I was obsessed with trees because when I did photography, especially families, I searched for very specific kinds of trees that had like fractals, which are just like trees are big enough, like they have enough leaves in them that the sun just kind of like peeks out and they actually create this very beautiful, beautiful image. And so trees just like they serve so much for the landscape. But when I look at a tree and you think of the summer and you think of the fall, like trees when they're so vibrant and beautiful, and then a leaf falls and it goes to the ground, like when they're thriving, they're beautiful, right? When they're taken care of. That's what it reminds me of us, right? It's used to the things that once were vibrant and now they're losing their structure. They're losing their form. Jethro isn't saying you're going to need a nap. He is essentially saying you're on a path that's going to lead you, that's going to end in you losing something essential about yourself if you keep going in this way. The deterioration that he's describing, it's not just physical. It's that kind of slowing down that's hollow, like it's a slow hollowing out. And that happens when something is meant to be shared, is being carried alone for too long. Then he says, this thing is too heavy for you. So the problem is the structure. It's not Moses. The structure wasn't built to hold this, and Moses has been treating it as a structural problem, like a personal one. Okay. There's a difference between something being hard and something being unsustainable. Thank you for that. The hard part, like the hard is part of the calling, right? Unsustainable, that's a design flaw. Moses, he's been pressing through a season when it was actually like a season of what he was actually in. Like he's been pressing in that. And it was something that was a structural problem. And he started to call it faithfulness. Some of us are doing the same thing right now. I did that for so long. You're pressing through and you're telling yourself that being tired, that's just this season that you're in. And I want to tell you, yes, that is valid, especially in business, right? There are seasons where our business is going to require more output from us for a season, genuinely for a season, maybe for a day. Usually for me now, it's like literally a day. I'm going to work a little bit harder for this day and then I'm going to incorporate rest. I'm not going to go for a season that turns into a year to 2 years to 3 years. That's not a season. But you're telling yourself, I'm just really tired because I'm growing, I'm building, I'm scaling. Right? That is what the world has designed us to think. Parenting, right? I'm in it with my 3-year-old. Sometimes it's just like, oh my goodness, kid. And we call it like a little monster in the house. The little monster goes from one kid to the next. It literally, you can like, I don't mean that like in an evil way. It's just a silly way. Because they act like little monsters sometimes. And when one is being really good, the other one is being really naughty. And then when one is being really naughty, the other one's being good. Like you could, and sometimes when my nieces are here, you can see the little monster go from one of them to the other one. Like, it's like, who is the little monster today? The little Sour Patch Kid. And so sometimes even in parenting that season, it feels like, oh my goodness, what is this? I'm just really tired. You are allowed to renew yourself even as a parent. We have those in our marriage, right? We tell ourselves this is just a really hard season. And you know what? I do think that. I do think a lot of times with parenting and with our children, we do get really tired, and that really is just a season. But even in that season, you are still allowed to ask for help. You are still allowed to renew yourself. You don't have to keep pressing through the tiredness at the sake of your own mental health or your physical health. That everybody that's in our position would feel this way. Like the cost of what God has given us to steward, whether that's our business or our household or our jobs, that's just part of the calling. I think a lot of times we can't even tell the difference because we have been in the same pace for so long that pace is just normal to us. Tired. I'm just go, 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 go. I'm tired, but that's just normal. Jethro is somebody who's on the outside, and he could tell because he has not been in the inside of it. He watched from the outside for just one day, and he saw what had taken Moses months to see. How many of you have had that? Have you ever seen someone like that? Like, I know that when we're in it, we don't even have the eyes to see. Have you ever recognized somebody like that? Where you're like, ooh, you're doing the most. Are you okay? Are you good right now? And they don't even see it. They don't even see how tired they really are. They probably feel it, but I don't think they recognize how much they're taking on. I feel like the person who could tell you probably already has that version of what Jethro has said. They probably haven't said those words, right? Like, you're doing too much, or why are you alone in this? Maybe they said it as a question, right? They said, when was the last time you took a break? Do you have anybody that's going to help you with that? Or like, you seem like you have a lot going on. How many of you have had somebody say that to you and you answered in the same way that Moses answered? You told them, that's just part of business, right? Or you told them why it's so important to you, why it matters to you. Or you explained that this is your calling, and that part was technically true, but it's also completely missed the point of what they were asking. I've done that time and time again. I say, like, I'm good. And there are times where genuinely I'm good. I've had people come to me, and it actually hurts me when they ask me this because I've done so much work to not be in that place anymore. So when they see that, I'm like, gosh, what am I missing? Because I feel great. I feel the best that I have in a long time. So the question was not whether the work is real or whether it mattered. That's not what Jethro was asking. The question is, why are you carrying all of it by yourself? We tend to filter the concern through our calling and give them the calling as the answer. And then the conversation just moves on. That's just part of what I do. That's just part of business. I'm just a mom. I have young kids. I work a job. I have 10 jobs. Like, that's just what you do. You got to take care of your family, right? This is not about trusting God with the work. Moses trusts God completely. This is about an assumption that got buried so deep under faithfulness that you stopped being able to see it. The assumption is, well, if I'm the one called to it, I'm the one who has to hold all of it. That assumption is what Jethro is interrupting. So I'm going to invite you guys to put something in the comments. I want to know, what is the thing that you have been carrying the longest by yourself? The thing that has been on your plate since before this season even started. What is that thing? I'm going to take a drink and I'm going to allow you guys to put that in. Mine, I think I would say my business. My business is usually that thing that I just do on my own. Parenting alone, taking care of your 80 or 98-year-old grandmother. What a blessing that she has you. You need care for you now. Yeah. Self-doubt, financial responsibility, your health. Yeah, these are good. All right. So I'm going to read from verses 18 through 29. I did want to say before we dive into that piece of it, here at 10:30, we're going to go into our eating gathering, which is our Tuesday prayer call. This is for those of you ladies that are on here today. We do it every single Tuesday. And it's just time where I cover you intentionally with prayer. I bring the things that I'm seeing throughout the week. If you guys want to be a part of that, I hop right off here and go to the prayer call. Like, it's a separate platform, so I have to send you guys the link. If you want that, if you want to be a part of that, if you go to the gold icon at the bottom left of your screen, there is a option that says prayer call. I think it says Tuesday prayer call. If you click on that, it's going to opt you in and it should send you the link automatically. And it will send you reminders for every Tuesday. Excuse me. You guys should be able to put that into your calendar as well if you want to do that. But I want to say that before I power through and then it's like, oops, we got to hop off. And if you guys are new here, I have a gift for you in that same place. Okay, it's 40 questions as you guys are going through big decisions. Just another way to reframe it, another way to think of it, another way to think of your faith, your motherhood, your business, all of those things. Okay, so I'm going to read from Exodus 18 verses 19 through 23. And if you guys are just coming in, I welcome you. All right, so verse 18. I know I read that, but I'm going to read 19 through 23. It says, "But now listen to my voice. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. And you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating, I don't know why I can't think of how to say this word, hating covetousness, I don't know, covetousness, couldn't tell you guys. My brain is not comprehending this word today, and I don't know why. And place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10. And then let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. And if you do this thing, and God so commands you, then you will go to be able to endure, and all of his people will also go to their place in peace." Okay? That was verses 19 through 23. So Jethro says, listen to my voice, and God will be with you. So he's not offering Moses a workaround for this. He's offering a structure that lets Moses stay in the part of the assignment that only Moses can fulfill. Okay? He's saying, bring the hard things to God. I want you to teach the statutes, show them the way, but do it while you're releasing the parts of the work that are qualified, like other qualified people can actually handle. So the filter that he gives for choosing these people is worth noting. He says, able men, like men who fear God, men of truth, men who hate this long word that I can't say. He's not looking for impressive men. He's looking for men with leadership experience. Or he's not looking for men with leadership experience, sorry. He's looking for men whose character is oriented in the right direction. He's saying, I want you to find people who are not going to use the access to make themselves powerful. These are people who can hold responsibility without turning it into leverage. So God isn't asking Moses to hand the work to just anybody who's willing. He's asking Moses to build a structure of character qualified people around him. So then Jethro, he says the word that holds all of it together. The word in Hebrew, it actually means you will be able to endure. That word actually means strong, to be firm, to take hold. So Moses isn't going to endure the assignment by just enduring it more. He's going to endure it by building the structure that then lets the work get done well. I said that weird. So I'm going to just reread that. So he's going to endure it by building the structure that lets the work get done well and lets Moses stay in the work long enough to finish what God started. Okay. So that same word that God will later use to tell Joshua is be strong and courageous. We see that later on in scripture. So the strength that Moses actually needs, it's not generated by pushing through. It's going to be built by receiving the structure that holds him inside the assignment rather than grinding him down inside of it. I want to share a little bit of my testimony with you guys because this is very relevant to that piece of it. And I hope that it hits home for some of you business owners. Okay. So when I first, a lot of you have heard this, but when I first started my business, it was not first started, but when I first stepped into this element of my business, coaching other women, I had been working with other businesses, helping them to create brands that were high-end, that are high-end and premium, okay? And so I was doing a lot of different things, a lot of execution, like website design, branding, marketing, photography, so many things, right? Like in my wheelhouse, they kind of all go together. They are creating a holistic brand and marketing. And I could just see the gaps of what these businesses needed, and I would help them fill it. And I was that person. Sometimes I was a VA, like a virtual assistant, and I was doing, it'd be like I create the strategy and I help you execute it, essentially. So I don't really think of myself as a VA, but it kind of was. And so my business was growing very quickly. I was taking on a lot of clients and I was doing it. And then all the while I was getting very burnt out. Okay. I was burning like both ends of the candle. And so as I'm building this, God was calling me into more depth of saying, I want you to build a business that glorifies God in this, right? Where is God in business, essentially, is what I think that he is trying to kind of highlight. Like business tends to show faith here and your business over here. Like they don't intersect. And God was like, I want you to show how they are actually meant to be one, like they are not separate from one another, and your family is also incorporated in that, and you as an individual are incorporated in that, so they're never in competition with one another. And so I was like, okay, I believe that this is a community, right? So I had the community element of it, the membership element of it, and I knew that I wanted to like walk women through a pathway, but I didn't understand the fullness of it. God was saying, this structure that you're building, this hustle that you have, this mentality, this striving, this performing, like all of this thing that the world, like these things that the world has shown you that you believe is necessary to have this successful business. And by all metrics, my business is successful, right? Whatever that means to you. I'm not going to go into the revenue element of it, but let's just say I had a very successful business. And so I'm building and it's like grind. And I would have family members say like, are you good? And I'm like, yes, I am great. I am good. That's just what we do in business, right? That's just, you got to work hard, right? If you want things to happen, you got to work for it. And I had a team and we were doing a lot. And all the while, God was slowly starting to highlight things for me. And he's saying, this is not of me. This is the ways of the world. And I want to show you something different. This structure that you're building, it isn't going to sustain you. You have to go back to the original place that I have ordained for business, for us as individuals. You cannot run it in the way of the world where you are striving and hustling and you're performing and you're feeding this like never ending monster that like just never gets filled. Like you would hit a milestone and you felt empty, that no matter how much revenue you made, it was just never enough. That no matter how many clients you just want, it was just like more all the time. He's like, that's not what I intended for you. That's not what I intended for kingdom businesses. And so it got to a point where I had to look at it and God said, you know what? I want you to dismantle it. I want you to dismantle it piece by piece. So slowly I offloaded client after client after client after client. I still have one. But it was to the point where he said, you can't operate in this way. It's going to, what is the word that I used for Moses? It's exactly how Jethro saw it. You're at like the tree and how it withers. You're no longer thriving. You're like this withered leaf that fell because you're doing it by yourself and you're doing it in misalignment with what I've called business to be. And so the strength that God was saying, the strength, like in this example with Moses, like the strength that Moses has is not going to be generated by pushing through. It's going to be built by receiving the structure that holds him inside of the assignment rather than grinding him down in it. That's how it was. He said, this strength that you need to build this successful business, it's not going to happen by you doing more and more and more and more and losing yourself in the process. It's not going to happen that way. You are going to build it strong and they will come. He told me that at like 3 a.m. He woke me up in the middle of the night and he said, build it strong and they will come. He didn't just mean the business. He meant me. He meant my family. He meant the community. He meant all of it. Build it in accordance to how I've laid it out in Scripture. If you guys don't believe that God laid out leadership in Scripture, we are literally reading from it. He models it for us. He wants us to build it with him. He wants us to do it in a way that it allows us to hold the assignment rather than be crushed by the weight of it. We're not going to find it by doing more constantly. It's like a never-ending beast that will not be satisfied. How many of you guys have ever hit a milestone that you prayed for and you hit it and you felt empty? If we are going into business from a place of striving, of constant, for the mercy of the revenue, of the dollar, it's never going to satisfy us. It won't. It might for a little bit. But what God had to show me is that it was this striving and this need for recognition and the achievements and all of these things. I was operating in that way because there was something deeper that I needed healed, that I had to set my sights on him, that every single time I went through something in business and I felt a rejection, it's because my spirit wasn't settled in the nature of who God was. That I had to be so in tune with who God is, that he was going to be the provider, that he is Jehovah Jireh, that he was my healer, he is Jehovah Rapha, right? He is Jehovah Nisi, he is my banner. He goes before me and he makes a way. He is everything that I need and he is enough. That if my business is slow, that is okay. That if the clients aren't coming, they're not my people. That if I am somebody who is taking off a season to be with my family, that is part of my calling. That the revenue may fall or it may increase. It is not dependent on this, his faithfulness to me is not dependent on my circumstances and the success of my business. He is faithful to me no matter what. My business and the success is exactly what it needs to be in that moment, and I am okay with that. That there is a learning in the process that he has to take me through, and that I am grateful for that. That what he is taking me through, he is building this place of Eden, right? This place of understanding what the original design is before I build the empire. Because if I don't understand what he is taking me through, and I don't have my spirit settled with him and my understanding of his character, everything that business is going to throw at me, and if I run it by the ways of the world, it's going to be something that I'm going to be crushed by the weight of it. And I was. The person who I wasn't thriving. If you looked, if ever you go, probably more so on FB, like that platform, you'll see it. The recognition and the articles and the press and the boom, 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 right? Like all the movement. People would say to me, oh my goodness, your business is just doing so great and you are taking off and things are so you are everywhere, right? Do you know what I felt internally? Empty. I was stressed. I was a shell of myself. I was numb. I wanted more. It was just not, it never was what I needed it to be. That I was a fragment of myself, that I couldn't fully be present with my boys. That's what that was. And you would never have known that. Because what you see on the outside is, wow, she's successful. Things are great. They're amazing. And God says, I see the real you, the heart underneath that. He said, you are being crushed by the weight of this, and I want success for you. I'm massively, I know that God has that in store for me. I've seen it. I know it. I'm experiencing it, right? He is moving in my life, but it looks so different than what it did. He didn't want me to grind my way through it. He wanted me to be present in it, to be whole in the process. That's what this reminds me of. So I want to share a little known fact with you guys about this chapter, because it makes it remarkable. Okay. Moses tells this story himself in Deuteronomy 1. He actually retells Exodus in detail. So when he gets to this part, the delegation of the judges, he tells it slightly differently. He doesn't mention Jethro by name. He actually describes it as choosing the men as if they were his own decision. Now, I don't believe that this is a deception, because scholars actually read it as something more interesting than that. Moses absorbed the advice so completely that it became a part of how he understood his own leadership now. It stopped being something that Jethro just told him to do. It became a part of how he led. So that wisdom entered into his mindset at such a deep level that the distinction between the advice received and the decision, it made that decision like dissolved. That's actually what it looks like when you genuinely receive something and you don't keep it at arm's length as like outside input. It becomes like a part of how you actually think now. So Moses didn't just interpret Jethro's suggestion, he integrated it and he internalized it. So by the time he gets to Deuteronomy, he reads it as his own understanding. It's his new way of operating. It is a new mindset shift. It is so ingrained into how he now leads. That's just part of it. Like it wasn't just ever a suggestion for him. He fully received it. So the question underneath that is, what wisdom has somebody else offered you that you've kept categorized as somebody else's idea instead of it just change, like letting yourself change how you actually operate? So has somebody told you something and you've just kind of kept it over here as like, oh, that's just their idea. That's just like a suggestion, instead of actually receiving it and letting it change how you operate, taking it at face value and letting yourself receive it and say, actually, maybe I should change something. So when we get to Exodus 18, verses 24 through 26, I'm going to breeze through this, you guys, because we're going to go on our prayer call here in like 6 minutes. Okay. So Exodus 18 verses 24 through 26, it says, so Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. And Moses chose able men out of Israel and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. All right. So the Hebrew word in this, Shema, it's hear, O Israel. So it's not a passive acknowledgement. Shema actually means to hear and obey, to receive a word and let it move you. Moses didn't manage Jethro's feedback. He didn't say, well, I'll think about that. Or like, maybe you're right, but you have to understand the context of the situation. Like he just listened and he moved. This is the man that God called meekest on the earth. Meekest, I think, has always been misread as weakness. It's something that I think people read so consistently that they've learned to distance themselves from that word. But meekness in the biblical framework, it's not the absence of strength. It's the power held rightly. It's the capacity to actually receive a word from an outside voice and let it reshape how you're operating without letting it feel like a defeat. So Moses, he received Jethro's counsel as if it came from somebody who cared about the outcome of the assignment. not somebody who was questioning whether Moses was qualified for it. And in receiving it, when he did it in that way, he led better. He lasted longer. That structure that he built into Exodus 18, it became the foundation of how Israel functioned for generations. Here's what I want you to see about Moses in this chapter. He wasn't unaware of what the days felt like. He knew exactly what he was carrying. He had been doing it for a really long time. What he didn't have was the outside view. He didn't have, couldn't see himself from somebody else's perspective. He couldn't see what his pace looked like from somebody else who was not inside of it to him. You know what your days feel like, and you know what your cost is, right? You've probably known for a while that something about this pace that you've been going on is not sustainable. What you may not have is somebody with enough closeness and enough of an outside perspective to say to you plainly, what you're doing is not good. This thing is too heavy for one person. Jethro, he didn't arrive saying Moses was failing. He arrived with his family and he heard the whole story and he worshiped alongside the elders of Israel. And then from that place of relationship, he said what he saw to him. That hard word, it stuck with Moses because it was wrapped in belonging. Moses knew that this was somebody who wanted the assignment to succeed. That advice, it wasn't a threat to Moses' calling. It was a support structure for it. Who has that kind of access to what you're actually doing? Not someone that you just update, like somebody who can watch for a day and say what they noticed to you. You may not have called that person yet. You may not have a reason. Maybe it feels too vulnerable to let somebody else see the scope of what you're carrying. Like maybe the last time you did it, maybe the last time you let somebody in close, the thing that you're worried about, it actually happened. Maybe you've gotten so used to holding on to these things alone that the offer of help, it feels more complicated than just continuing. Moses, he didn't go looking for Jethro. Jethro came to him. Moses didn't have to make himself vulnerable first. He just let that person who was already there with him stay long enough to see what was actually going on with him. Sometimes the help that God has for you is already in proximity. That person is already there. The step isn't finding somebody new. The step is letting the person who is already there actually see the thing that version of you is hiding. Just be released for them. I want to read from Proverbs 12:15. Okay. So in Proverbs 12:15, it says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise." He who heeds counsel is wise. Okay. So Moses, he wasn't a fool. Okay. He was inside of work in a way that made it impossible to evaluate the work clearly. He wasn't wrong about his calling. He was wrong about the structure. And he couldn't see the structural problem because every single day he was using his capacity to get through the day. The wise person here, it's not somebody who has every single thing figured out. That wise person is the one when someone they trust offers a clear-eyed view of something, they're the one that's actually able to hear it as care instead of criticism. Moses, he heard it as care, and he listened and he moved. So I also want to look at Romans 12, verses 4-6. Oh, my hands don't want to work. Okay. It says, "For as we have many members in one body, but all the members do not have the same function. So we, being many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith," right? And it goes on to talk about all the other gifts, right? Ministry, teaching. So Paul writes in Romans 12 that we have many members to one body. All of them have different functions and individually members of one another, right? With gifts that are differing according to grace. He was writing this centuries after Moses, but he's describing what Jethro already saw in the wilderness. The body wasn't designed for one part to carry every single thing. Moses was functioning as if he were the whole body. And Jethro looked at him and he said, there are other parts, I want you to use them. The 1,000 group leaders, the 100 group leaders, the 50 group leaders, the 10 group leaders, each one is carrying what theirs is theirs to carry. Moses was carrying what was his. The body, it was distributed. The work was distributed. So when that happened, Moses was actually able to endure. What part of you are, what part are you trying to function as right now? What part of you, why can't I say this? What part are you trying to function as right now that belongs to someone else? It's not because the work is not yours, but more so that the structure was never designed to hold all of it in one place. So what part are you trying to function as right now that belongs to somebody else? Are you acting as the mom, the dad, the parent to your siblings? Are you operating as the content creator, the business owner, the social media manager, the accountant, what part of you? What part are you holding on to every single element? Okay. I have a little bit more, and I know we're going to be late to the prayer call. But I want to finish this, okay? I want to say something about what God does in this chapter that I think a lot of us may miss if we just go breeze through or just focus on one element of it. God actually doesn't speak in Exodus 18. He doesn't appear in a fire or a cloud. He doesn't give Moses a word through a prophet. He actually doesn't even show up in a way that he has been showing up throughout the remainder or the entire Exodus narrative. He sends a Midianite priest who loves Moses and has been outside view, or he has the outside view of everything. He meets the need through the structure of an existing relationship, through somebody who already had standing in Moses' life, who was already there, who just needed to be let in long enough to say what needed to be said. God is not only there in the dramatic moments of our lives. He is in the ordinary conversations that change how we operate for the person, for the rest of their lives. God is the person who shows up at the right time and says the right thing and is close enough to say it to you plainly. He is present in that burning bush. He is present in the plagues. He is present at the Red Sea, and he was also present in that tent conversation over bread between a man and his father-in-law. So in every place God shows up, it's holy ground. And that tent is holy ground. He is with us even if it may not seem like it. Okay? At the beginning of this live, I asked you guys to fill in the blank of this, okay? I asked you to say, in what, the area of my life that I am most tired in right now is what? What is that you guys put? And if you didn't get a chance to put anything, you can now. But I want to come back to that, okay? Because whatever you typed, I want you to look at that. I want you to look at everything that we just covered. Is that an area where you have been carrying something that was never designed to be held by one person? Is that the area where you've been treating it like a structural problem or like a personal one? If you were just better or stronger or more organized, then maybe you could handle it. Is that the area where you've given people that version that you prepared for visitors and you haven't let anybody else see the actual scope of it? Jethro didn't fix Moses' calling. He fixed the structure around the calling. The assignment was still Moses' assignment. Moses is still that person who stood before God and for the people. He is that one who taught the statues, who brought the hard things to God. All of that stayed, but what changed was the structure that held Moses inside the assignment without wearing him down to nothing. So whatever you guys have filled in the blank with, the structure around it, some of that might need to change. And that change may start with just letting one person who is already in your proximity actually see the whole picture instead of this curated version that you're giving them. Because there's probably already a Jethro in your life who has been watching and hasn't said a thing to you yet. because you haven't even stayed still long enough to let them. You might not need to go find help. Sometimes help has already arrived and you just have to let it sit down. Like you have to set it down. Okay. We're going to go into our prayers really quick, and then we're going to hop into that other prayer call. Okay. So during this, as I'm praying for us, continue to put your prayers. Okay. And if you want to join us for that prayer call for more in-depth prayer, I invite you to go to that gold icon at the bottom of your screen, get your gift if you're new here, and go opt in so that you can get the link for the Zoom. And if by chance you guys are like, oops, I didn't get it, message me. Literally, you have to listen to this instruction because it's very specific. Because when I hop off this live, I hop onto the next platform and I'm not watching my phone. So I have an automated system that will send you the link, but you have to type it in properly. If you go to the gold icon at the bottom of your screen, there is an option. It should say prayer call. That's it. You literally just click on it and it will also send you the link. Again, this is just for the ladies. Now, if it's not there for some reason, all you have to DM me is prayer call. Don't add an emoji. Don't say prayer call, please. Don't say, hi, can I have the prayer call? Literally just 2 words, say prayer call. That's it. A DM, and you send it to me. I also need to say this too. Sometimes you guys will DM me, you get the link and you say it's not working or it's asking for a passcode. Hear this, okay? There are no passcodes. There are no passwords. And if the link doesn't work, try it again. Try it in a different browser. Because I'm only saying this just to give you guys a heads up, because when I'm on the call, I can't see my phone. Just like I'm on the live, I'm not watching. And so I can't troubleshoot with you. Those are the workarounds. We end right at 11. Okay, we end right at 11. And so if you hop on late, like I don't restart. Okay, so I have to give you guys those updates just because this happens every week and I just want to let you guys know, okay? I'm not ignoring you. All right, so I'm going to go into prayer and then we're going to hop off, okay? Father, thank you for being with us today. I pray that this word gave some wisdom to those that may have needed it. It brought a comfort, and maybe it opened up our eyes in the ways that we need to submit, to surrender to the calling, to not hold on to everything, Father. Thank you for placing people in our lives that will be the one who will see that from an outside perspective, that sometimes we're doing too much, that we weren't meant to do this alone, that we are a body and a community. Father, I pray that if anybody needs it, that we have the strength to reach out to one another, that we know that we are a community that hears one another. Thank you for allowing us this beautiful space for us to gather. I thank you. Thank you for your word. Thank you for highlighting more of who you are for us. Thank you for this book that reveals so much of who you are, Father. It is such a gift. Thank you for all you do. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. I could literally just do a whole prayer. Just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you the whole time. I was like, I better cut it short. So we're going to hop off and go to that next prayer call. This is just for the ladies. If you guys haven't gotten the link and I close this live, make sure you DM me prayer call, okay? We're going to be in Exodus 19 tomorrow. I go live every day at 9 a.m. Central. If you guys want the replays, make sure you get them. If you didn't get a chance to, I will say this too. You guys only have to opt into it one time. A lot of you DM me replay and you're already opt in. You don't need to do it every day. I send them to you automatically at the end of the day. And so if you aren't getting them, let me know. If you've already signed up for the replays, let me know, okay? So the link is going to be emailed to you. And if it doesn't get emailed to you here within, like immediately after you've opted in, message me and just say prayer call. It'll send you the link in the DM right away, okay? We're going to hop off. I'm going to adjust my setup and I'll see you guys here in just a second, okay? You guys have a beautiful day if you're not joining us. I will talk to you all later.